this is the third of our employment support videos. Previously we've looked at transferable skills, what you have already that would be attractive to an employer, and we've looked at preparing for an interview. So today I have 4 things that you should avoid doing during interviews, but before we get into those, let's look at 5 things that you should do during your interview. Number 1, remain calm. Don't panic. And this can be easier said than done. It's quite natural for us to be nervous when we're going for an interview. The key issue is if your nerves start to get in the way and start to cause you problems. If they do, then one of the first things I'd recommend is you watch our video on managing your thoughts. We've got a whole video there about various techniques for helping get a good grip of that side of things. Probably the 2 best techniques I've heard for interviews is firstly, just concentrate on your breathing. Just try and slow everything down if you can. Just concentrate on deep breaths in and long breaths out. However you want to do it, just focus inwardly and just put the brake on. Just try and slow your heart rate and your whole system down so you don't start to get out of control. Okay, concentrate on your breathing. The second thing I think you can do is try and get a grip of that little voice in your head that is telling you negative things, and the way you do that is you override it with positive things. It's called self-talk. So talk to yourself the way a really good best friend would talk to you if they were sat right next to you now. So they would be saying things hopefully like, hey, you're fine, you're good at this, you will do fine in your interview, you are prepared, you look good, you're ready for this, you know what you're going to say, and you wouldn't be here unless you could do the job. So relax and enjoy it. Okay, so concentrate on your breathing and take control of that voice in your head, that self-talk. Number 2, make a good first impression. You only get one chance to make a first impression, so you need to make it count. Okay, studies showed that interviewers often make a mental decision about somebody within as little as 10 seconds. Okay, the amount of time it takes you to walk in the room and sit down, they have mentally gone, yes, I like this person, or no, I do not like this person. So we need to make that work for us, okay, so we're not fighting our way uphill with the rest of the interview. So the way you do that, like we mentioned in the previous video, is firstly with your appearance. Make an effort with how you look. Show that you're taking it seriously, okay? The second thing you can do though is when you walk in that room, look the interviewer or interviewers in the eye and smile and greet them. Say something like, hello, I'm Chris, or whatever your name is. Don't use Chris unless you're called Chris, that might confuse them. Now then, one added complication though is we used to advise people when you walk in to shake everyone's hands, but with the coronavirus that's not really appropriate now, but we don't want to look ignorant. So what I would do is I would label it. I would say, you know, normally I would shake your hand, but obviously right now that's not the right thing to do, so I hope you'll excuse me. Okay, so make a good first impression. Make eye contact, smile, greet people, introduce yourself, and get that first impression to work from you right from the beginning. Number 3, sit facing the interviewer. It may sound obvious, but you'd be surprised, some people. Okay, so when you go in, sit down, face your interviewer and give them good eye contact. Okay, look relaxed, look confident, look interested, and listen carefully to what they've got to say. Number 4, answer the questions clearly. Now if you are nervous, one of the things you can do is say so. It's okay to tell them that you are nervous. I'm sorry, I'm really nervous, this job means a lot to me, I want to do well. Sometimes by saying it out loud, it actually helps to break the tension a little bit. So try that if you think that's going to help. But you should really be thinking of it not being an interrogation, but rather a conversation, a chat with somebody about the role and the position or the vacancy. Okay, so it should be a two-way process. So try and be positive, try and talk about what you can do or what you have done. Keep it very upbeat and positive and constructive. But if you don't understand what's been asked of you, then it's okay for you to ask them to repeat the question, and it's also okay for you to ask them to explain or clarify what they're talking about. It should be a two-way process, so be open to that. Number 5, thank them for the interview. Now, just as we said it was important at the beginning to make a good first impression, you want to leave the interviews with a really good feeling about you afterwards. So you don't just walk out, you will do as you did at the beginning, look them in the eye, good eye contact, smile and say thank you for the opportunity, because it is an opportunity. If you enjoyed it, say so. I really enjoyed it. I found it really interesting. It sounds a really interesting company. It sounds a really interesting role. Okay, now again, we would normally, until recently, have recommended that you shake hands again, but with the current coronavirus pandemic, that is not appropriate. So no handshakes. But make sure you leave a good, positive impression of yourself by the end of the interview. Okay, so there are 5 things that you should do during your interview. Now let's look at 4 things that you should not do during an interview, or at least try not to do. Number 1 is do not speak poorly of your previous or current role. Now what we mean by that is essentially don't slag off a previous employer because you're talking to possible future employers. They often will have more sympathy for your employer than they do for you. So you're on a loser with that one. Also, it's quite negative. It doesn't give off the impression of you that we want you to as a positive person, a constructive person. It looks like, and you might have a really good reason for being unhappy in your current or previous job, but this is not the time or the place to air those kind of grievances, okay? You want to leave people with a positive, good, happy feeling about yourself, and that doesn't help. Number 2 on our things to avoid during an interview are jokes. Okay, it's okay to be light-hearted and amusing, but I would avoid jokes or trying to be too funny, because things that you and your friends may find hysterically funny, somebody else might find inappropriate or even offensive. Okay, you'd be surprised. And it's not the impression you want people to go away with about you. It's not what we're trying to put in their minds. We've had people who, because they're nervous, crack a joke to try and break the tension, and sometimes it backfires. That's what they're remembered for, that person who came in and told the stupid joke. You don't want to do that. That's not you, and that's not the you that you want them to see. So it's okay to be friendly, but don't try and be a comedian. Number 3, swearing. It may sound obvious, but please don't swear during your interview. You'd be surprised. There have been interviews. I think what happens is, if the interview's going well and you start to relax and you're getting on with the other person, then that sort of sheen of professionalism, we let it slip a little bit and things come out without us realising it. So just be careful about the words you're using. You don't want to come across as, it's like humour. You know, the things that we find are fine, and the things we might say to our friends and family, other people may find a little bit inappropriate. So just be careful about the terminology and the words you use. Don't get too vulgar or too relaxed. Which leads us nicely into number 4 of our things not to do during an interview, which is overfamiliarity, if I've said that right. But all that means is do not start relaxing too much during your interview, even if it's going well. Remember, we want you to be friendly, we want you to be cheerful, we want you to smile, we want you to, all those things. But at the same time, you've got to remember why you're there and what you're there for, and stay professional, okay? Just keep that little thought in your mind about who you're talking to and the kind of things you're saying, all the things we've said previously about humour and jokes and swearing and vulgarity. These people are not your friends. They are professionals looking at you for a professional vacancy or role. So just keep that thought in the back of your mind and be professional. That's the best chance you've got of being successful and getting that job. Don't forget why you're there in the first place. So there you have it. 5 things you should do during your interview and 4 things you should not do during your interview. And I'm going to now, just for the people of Stockport, give you one extra tip, one extra bonus piece of advice. And my advice to you is this: if you're looking for work after this pandemic and the self-isolation period finishes and you're serious about looking for work, then my advice to you is get in touch with the Stockport Homes employment team. They're not just restricted to Stockport Homes customers. If you live in the Stockport area, it's free, and they are brilliant at advising and supporting people into work. They've been doing it for years. They know the local employers, they know the local situation, and they know the tricks of the trade. Everything I'm telling you on these videos has come from them, and they know so much more than I can squeeze into these little videos. So we will now put the contact details up. My recommendation to you is contact them now. Okay, you can email them or call them, as long as it's not 3 in the morning, and get in touch with them and arrange to speak to them. They're lovely people, most of them. They're lovely people, and they really want to help people get work in Stockport. So if you are serious, contact them now. I hope that's been of use. Good luck if you are looking for a job. But until I see you again, stay safe. Goodbye.